Good evening, friends, and welcome back to another season of Cooking with Jeffrey in the Kitchen. This season will start off with a series of videos on Chinese food because it is Chinese New Year, which actually started last night on February the 1st, but it's not always February 1st every year. So this is the first in a series of videos on Chinese cooking and videos. So I'm going to show you how to make it. First of all, I want to talk to you about Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is basically where the celebration where our Christmas and their New Year's are combined together. And yes, there is lots of family get-togethers and lots of fireworks and lots of traditions like we have here in Canada. But in their country, it's a much bigger deal than it is over here. But we have to accept the fact that they do Chinese New Year because they've accepted the fact we do Christmas and New Year's. So why not mesh them together and hopefully have a good time. So happy Chinese New Year to everybody. Everybody also, quickly, has a Chinese animal symbol on them. And there is a way to find it. You just take your year and you add 12 because your year comes every 12 years. And then you figure out from there, you find the Chinese calendar or the zodiac. And it will tell you what your year is, animal-wise. Basically, the easiest way to do it is to take your year and look it up on the Chinese calendar, and then you'll figure out what animal you are. It's very, very interesting figuring out the animals and the characteristics of what they all mean. Shoot me a line under the comments section if you find your animal and what it means and whether or not it fits your personality. I'd be interested in knowing. My ties to China go back to the days when my father was in the military many years ago, and he started getting interested in Chinese stuff. And Chinese New Year has always been very, very interesting. At first I didn't find it very, very interesting, but now that I've been there and I'm doing these virtual baking classes and cooking classes and doing Chinese cooking, I might as well learn about it, right? That's the reason I'm doing it. Plus I'll learn about cultures. We'll also learn about other cultures as we're going along. Japanese cultures and food that they do and holidays that they have and celebrate them eventually. But for now, we're sticking with Chinese. Okay, on to the recipe for today. Season 2, recipe number 1 is Chinese tomato with egg. Basically scrambled egg mixed with tomato. Basically what you do is very, very simple one, and I'm not going to bore you with a long recipe for the first one. Basically what you do, first of all, if you're a big fan of tomatoes, use tomatoes. You can also use diced tomatoes, drain them, and use the diced tomatoes. That will also work. But I recommend using regular tomato. That way you don't have any leftovers unless you're making spaghetti the next day. That is convenient. So here's your nice little, or not so nice little tomato. I'm not a big fan of tomatoes, but for this lesson, I'm going to use a tomato. So, introduce myself. First of all, you have to introduce yourself. Hello, tomato. Okay, now that the tomato's been introduced to you, you can get downright dirty with it. Not dirty with it, but you can take your tomato and you can cut it. What you're going to do is you're going to take your tomato like so. Take your tomato, put it on your cutting board, making sure you have a clean knife. Clean knife. Okay, one of these. This guy's a very serrated knife. So what I'm going to do, I don't think I have a clean one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife, holding it like normal. We'll go back to basics for a second. Holding your knife like this and chopping it so it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and up and down. Sometimes the tomato might slip a little bit. That's dangerous, so you have to be very, very careful with it. Up and down, up and down, up and down. And now what I'm going to do is take tomato, and I'm going to cut it this way, and I'm going to cut it into little pieces so that it's nice and small. Okay, so nice and small, nice and small. There we go. Get over here, you. Okay. Nice and small, 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 nice and small. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we got them nice and small. We have them nice and small. We'll use those later. Okay, what we're going to do is take our tomato, taking our trusty little slider, which I introduced in an earlier video. Basically what you do, and I'm trying to influence the kids like this, not to do it, is when you're cutting on a cutting board, try not to cut with a knife like this, or scrape a knife with a knife like this, because you'll get grooves in your cutting board. Okay, so you basically slide your tomato in, like that. It comes up to your slider. Making a mess. Put the tomatoes in here. See, you didn't even have to touch it with your hands. Isn't that cool? Move that thing out of the way. Move that out of the way. Now we're gonna put this over here, this guy over here for a minute. Eggs. Crack 2 eggs into your bowl like normal. Anybody who knows how to make scrambled eggs knows that what you do is you take your eggs, okay, and you take a fork and you put a little milk in there, and a little bit of milk. My problem is with scrambled eggs, I always put too much milk in, but put too much milk in, it's going to make it not as good. Okay, so what you do, you take your eggs, and I normally would go like this. Instead of using a fork, I'd use a whisk. Take your whisk, go hold it down like that, and basically whisk it. Keeping as much as you can inside the bowl, Jeffrey. There you go, so it's all whisked. Once it's whisked, like so, and everything's being incorporated into it, and it looks all like, you got the idea, that looks all like that. Okay, well, I can't really show you because maybe I can. No, it won't work. Anyway, basically you get the idea. And your tomatoes, and you bring them all over to the stove. Hang on, friends, I'll be back in a minute. All over to the stove. Basically, you take a little bit a little bit of margarine. A little bit of margarine into your pan. I prefer Bissell margarine. I use margarine for mostly everything, but I'm learning and understanding that there is a difference, and I'll explain this when we do cookies again, about using margarine versus butter in cookies. Butter holds cookies together better than margarine does. So I now understand using butter is better than margarine for cookies. I go, and I'll explain this to you next time we do cookies, we go with the unsalted virgin butter. There's a reason for that, which I'll explain next time. You're wondering why I'm holding a thing of margarine on a knife. That's because you stick the margarine into the pan. We're getting back to our recipe now. Making sure, first of all, the butter is melted. Sorry, I have a mess over here by my stove. I was doing something else earlier. Melt the butter. Move this out of the way. Okay, so while we're melting the butter, I'd like to know in the comments section also from you guys, if you're watching this video, what you guys did for Chinese New Year, or how you celebrated Chinese New Year. I realize that it's totally different in Canada compared to China, and it seems like people don't accept the importance of it, but again, please understand it's really, really important for the Chinese. The big thing about Chinese New Year is that they eat, and they get together with family, similar to what we do at Christmas and New Year's. So my philosophy is, if you're gonna understand if they're gonna understand our culture and try to accept our culture when we're here, why not try and accept their culture even if they're not there? I have some history on Chinese New Year if anybody's interested in it, ever, to learn about it, because it's a fun thing to learn, and that's basically it. Everything is going well in terms of virtual cooking and baking. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying teaching the students that I teach. As you know, I keep plugging away here, trying to get people to join, but I'm not sure how to market, so I'm going to do this. The business is just starting up at the moment, and I don't have a lot of capital income to pay somebody to, how do I say it, to help me out in terms of areas like marketing and stuff. So I'm looking for somebody on a volunteer basis who possibly could help me to make the business grow, to make some more money, and hopefully it will end up being in a paid position at some point. But please understand that at this point it's very much a volunteer position for marketing. I'm also looking for somebody to help me with my website, and maybe one other job with the newsletter every month. But those are the three things. Check out my website. I'll post it next time. I'll give it to you again. I'm having, as I said, having a really good time with this, and I'm just trying to wait until this margarine melts so I can show you the next steps. So I'm trying to fill in some time here. So let's just check the margarine state. Okay, margarine is now melted, finally. Okay, so what we do is we have a choice. We can either take the tomato, or we can take the egg and we can whisk it. We can fry the tomato first and then make the egg into scrambled egg after, or we can do the egg first and the tomato second. Going alphabetically, I think I'll do the egg first. Because which came first, the tomato or the egg? The egg alphabetically. Bad joke. Okay, so what we're going to do with the egg is we're going to take the egg and we're going to stick it in here. And we're going to use a pair of chopsticks, and we're going to whisk the egg around like this until the egg gets into scrambled egg. This is going to take a couple of minutes, but what I'm going to do, I don't normally advise this, but I want to show you the results. I'm going to whip it up, put the speed up to 6 on my stove, don't normally do this. I normally would do this at 4 or 5, but I want to show you guys how this is done. And normally a normal person doesn't cook at high heat. A normal person cooks at medium heat. There's 9 numbers on a burner. And what I'm saying is medium heat is 5 or 6, so it's at medium heat now. I would say high medium is at 7, and maximum is 9, and 8 is in between. I wouldn't go that high because normally people don't work that high in the oven unless they're in a rush, and foolish people sometimes tend to forget to turn the stove off, which is not a good thing, so always work at low heat. Boy, this is starting to form, folks, friends. This is starting to form. I'll show you in a minute what it looks like. It's starting to form. The important thing about scrambled egg, you have to understand, the important thing about scrambled egg is to make sure that everything is incorporated. You can't have it too runny, and you can't have it too, what's the word? Too soft either, but too runny is no good, and you don't want it to burn. So my suggestion is consistently stir it, and lo and behold, you have the first part of it. We're not done yet. You have scrambled egg, which looks just like that. How does that look, folks and friends? I'm going to give it a stir while I'm with you. Okay, now what you do is you take it off. You take it and you pour it into a bowl like that to mix it up, just like that. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to leave that right there for about 1 minute. It won't get too cold, don't worry. We put that there for 1 minute. We go back to our stove and we take our disgustingly ugly tomatoes. Again, I'm not a big tomato fan, that's why I said. You hoist them in, or put them in, not hoist them. And you stir them around. Let them stir for about a minute or 2. Okay, I'm turning on the timer now for a minute. While that's doing that, I'm going to put this away. Okay, so what we're doing is we're doing our tomatoes. Da 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 da. Okay. Tomatoes don't take very long at all, guys. And so you take your tomatoes like so. Take your tomatoes like so. Because it's done now. Doesn't even take a minute. Okay. So what you do, you take your tomato, which is here. You guys see your tomato? Now you see it? Now you don't? Okay, so you take it, you pour it into the bowl with your egg, you mix it up. And lo and behold, you guys, you have, after you mix it up together nicely, lo and behold, you have, voila, your Chinese chicken, not chicken, sorry, Chinese egg and tomato. Okay, ignore what I just did. Chinese egg and tomato. That's how you make Chinese egg and tomato. Now for the last thing, which I always do with my groups, is we dig in, we grab some egg, and we, if we can, slippery little chopsticks tonight. We grab a little bit of egg. You can see the egg there. Go like that. And we go like that. Is that delicious or is that delicious? Chinese egg with chicken, otherwise known as, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, people, Jidan Shihong Shi. That's what they call it in China. This is the introductory video of Chinese cooking. I hope you enjoy cooking with me. I will be back with another video within the next couple of days. And remember, eating is better when we eat it together. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next video. Bye everybody, and happy Chinese New Year.